Hi guys, Tucker here with a new video, and this video will be the continuation on the Rework Demon Hunter video, but I'm going to talk now about the blue post, which has way more changes, but if you want to see the rework visually, I've made a video about it, so please check that out. But before we start, please let's see the changes on the PTR, and this is the blue post, and I've skimmed a bit, and I think I'm quite okay with all the changes, but let's see. So Battleground Blades Brawl, there's a few changes on that. SOLOQ RPG map, which is Temple of Kotmugu, resource acquisition rate increased in the middle of areas of the map. So it's going to speed up the game mode. Will also give incentives to go to the middle of the map to get more resources. But overall, I'm just not really a fan of that map. But I think it's alright. They make changes to make it better, make it faster. Shadow size duration increased to 12 seconds instead of 8. There are a few changes on the tier sets. It's more or less balancing pretty much. So Blood Decay now triggers from consuming runic power, so that's a 2 set. Was previously triggered on consuming Bone Shield charges, which is more controllable then. Chances to trigger reduced to 30% for the 4 set bonus of the Frost Decay, and reduces the cooldown of Empower Rune Weapon by 6 seconds instead of 10. So it was a reduction on the Empower Rune Weapon. Whenever you're going to Chill Streak, you get bounces. Every single bounce get a chance to trigger a CD reduction on the Empower Rune Weapon, so that's now 6 seconds instead of 10. And they also fixed an issue where Chill Streak not decrementing a bounce when it bounced off of the Demon Death Knight, so it was more OP. Now they just kind of fixed the bug, so now it will be a bit less. About the rework, I talked mostly on my video, but pretty much they made a lot more choices available to you. Darkness is not a 100% chance to avoid damage. It is a 100% increase on chance to avoid, so it becomes a 30% in a party, for example, or in arenas or solo QRBG. No, never mind. Solo QRBG doesn't work. It will be also 15%. But anyways, first of the Illidary has been removed, and now it's a 2-minute CD metamorphosis, which is possible to have with the class tree. That's going to be quite good. Overall, it becomes very much more fun to play Demon Hunter, in my opinion. They have way more choices on the class tree, way more accessible on the class tree, and the spec tree, and the spec tree has only 3 nodes with 2 pointers, which are all at the bottom of the tree. So it makes that you have way more choices to make at the middle of the tree and at the top side of the tree, which is all a big W for Havoc Demon Hunter. So rejoice! Vengeance Demon Hunter, I don't know if they get a rework, but I think they will have eventually. Chances to trigger reduced for each target beyond the first for 2 set bonus. Now let's talk about Druid. Guardian Druids get a few changes here and there, mostly a buff towards Dream Thorns now absorbs 25% of the damage dealt to you, while active was 10%. And Dream Thorns duration increased to 45 seconds. Again, no big deal for PvP. Restoration Druids, Scenario Guardians no longer spawns an additional Grove Guardians at the beginning of the Incarnation Tree of Life, so that's a nerf. But whenever you're going to get a Grove Guardian, it will give you a CD reduction on your Tree of Life by 5 seconds instead of 4 seconds. I think the duration themselves is going to be reduced. It's going to be the same, but you will not have the power spike at the beginning of the Tree of Life with an additional Grove Guardian, so that's going to be removed. It also now is present on the totem bar, which is easier to see if you have a Grove Guardian active or not. Evokers, they changed Augmentation Evoker a bit, but I think overall it's still as strong in PvP and PvE. I think that this is really minor nerfs, to be honest. Aspect Favor increases maximum health by 2 or 4% instead of 3 or 6. Molten Blood absorption reduced by 50%, and this isn't changed in PvP combat. I think they already have a modifier on PvP, so they don't want to modify it too much. Ebon Might grants 8% of the Evoker's primary stat instead of 10. I think this is all like a placebo, pretty much. I don't think it will change anything. For PvP, I think for PvE maybe some numbers are going to change, but that's it. Spirit Bloom is pretty much unbuffed. So it got an increase of 25%, now it's like reverted, so you don't have the increase anymore. And rewind got a nerf of 7%. Instead of like having 40%, it will be 33% of damage taken in the last 5 seconds. They might still change a few things in the coming PTR notes. Mages, they got a few changes on the tier sets, which is interesting. This makes it a lot stronger for arcane. So the duration of forethought has been increased to 20 seconds, and enforced now requires consuming 3 clear casting stacks, which is reduced by 3. It was 6. To empower your next arcane missiles, and after consuming 3 clear casting arcane missiles, your next arcane missile will deal 150% increased damage to the primary target and 100% increased damage to the secondary target. I think that has been increased by ×2 if I'm not mistaken, but in PvP it will be divided by 2, so it will only be 75% increased damage, which is still going to be pretty noticeable in PvP in my opinion. Fire mages got a buff on their 2 and 4 sets. I think this is noticeable, but I don't think it's that noticeable. Because it's only like 1% here per stack, and also just in general 150. That's noticeable, but I think it's not going to be breaking fire mages too much. Jade Stair Serpent Statue Soothing Mist healing is increased by 40%, which is very big. This is insane actually, but whatever. Mistweaver set bonus now stores 20% of all healing instead of 15%. And I had a viewer of mine saying that it doesn't work on ancient teachings, which is really bad, and they should reword it at least to make it notice that it only works on Vivify and direct heals. And I think ancient teachings might not be direct healing, which is quite silly in my opinion, but whatever. Healing Elixir has been redesigned as a passive effect. You consume a healing elixir when you drop below 35% and are not in a loss of control effect, instantly healing you for 15% of your maximum health. You generate 1 healing elixir every 30 seconds, stacking up 2 times. Now, is it stronger to have it as a passive so you don't forget it, or do you prefer to actually have control on whatever you're going to use it? I think a passive effect is probably better to the keybind heavy spec that can be Mistweaver Monk, but I think being in control of it is way better, because again you can also pop it way faster than 35%. I think 35% you're in the range of actually dying. If you're popping it at 70%, you can survive a lot of damage because of like the foresight of, okay, there is a damage, I'm going to play more defensive. But we'll have to see. Unison's range increased to 40 yards and was 15 yards. I personally don't know what Unison is, so I'm very sorry. Windwalker, they say that the auto attack trigger was not really accomplishing the intended goal, and so they changed to the fact that you can actually proc it with abilities now, with also the melee attacks. So you see here, Amir Durasil, Windfoot now triggers off melee abilities in addition to auto attacks, and has been shifted to a normalized proc model, so it will be way more predictable. And the 2 sets will increase your damage like Blackout Kick by 150%. In PvP it's only 75%. 75% is still very big, not a lot of specs has that, and cooldown reduction increased to 2 seconds and was 1 second. So overall I think a big buff, and also a lot of bug fixes, which is always nice. Holy Paladin, excuse me, I was about to say PvP, but it also is for PvP. So all healing reduced by 5%, it was 3%. It will be very noticeable, by the way, on PvP. Hand Divinity, you don't really play that in PvP, but if you were playing that, now you're definitely not playing it. It's only going to increase the healing of Holy Light by 40% instead of 80%. Saved by the Light, Absorb Shield increased by 50%, so basically you're not going to kill them if they're low HP because of the Saved by the Light. So it's going to be a bit annoying to play versus that. Blessed Focus now increases the healing of Glimmer of Light by 40% and was 25%. I think that's the 1 Glimmer of Light increase. So if you have a Glimmer of Light on one target, it's going to be increased by 40%. But you can only apply it to one target at a time. I think that's the talent, if I'm not mistaken. A Merciful Aura healing is now increased by 20%, was 50% while Aura Mastery is active, but the overall healing from Merciful healing, Aura healing is increased by 15%. This is a PvE talent, by the way. You don't play that in PvP. You don't have the points for it if you're playing like a good PvP build. Touch of Light healing now increased by 500%, was 700%, so that's a big nerf, but I think it's justified. Word of Glory healing increased by 10%, which is going to be nice for PvP, I think. Barrier of Faith now increases an absorb shield based on 25% of healing done was 50%. And the Aura Mastery now increases the effectiveness of Devotion Aura to 12% instead of 15%. So overall nerf on every single thing for Holy Paladin, except the one Glimmer of Light build, which is again a very good build for twos, but I think in threes is a bit like of a suicidal thing going on, so you don't really want to go for that. Protection Paladin now grants damage reduction instead of armor for 2 set. Max 7 stacks reduced to 5, each granting 2% damage reduction, was 10 stacks, each granting 1%. So it's a 10% damage reduction overall, which is going to be neat for them. Retribution Paladin got a nerf in my opinion. It's a big nerf actually. The 2 set Expurgation now deals 30% increased damage instead of 50%, and Wrathful Sanction now deals 50% of the main holy damage to up to 4 nearby enemies instead of 20%, so it's more of an AoE thing now, and the single target thing is like very much nerfed. Echoes of Wrath now causes your next Templar's Verdict and Divine Storm to deal damage as a second time for 25% effectiveness. May I remind you, in PvP it is reduced by divided by 2, so it's only 12.5%. I think you're going to just disregard the 4 set and maybe just only take the 2 set if you're playing Expurgation, but I think I would highly suggest, if you're a PvP mainer for Retribution Paladin, to not make the 4 set if it stays like this. Just pick whatever stats you want to go for. If the set has the best stats possible, that's perfect, but if it doesn't have it, just disregard the 4 set and go for just a normal gear piece. Again, I think it doesn't warrant the fact that you need to have the 4 set. I think it's a bad 4 set in my opinion for PvP. But again, I might be wrong, but I think it's a bad one now, especially now. I think before with 25% you could maybe justify it, but right now 12.5% of the damage of the Templar's Verdict is only like, I don't know man, 15k maybe. It's a proc, so I don't know. I don't like it. Priests. A lot of changes actually. Power Word Life now is not usable above 35%, so you cannot like be using it incorrectly. It has now a 15-second CD and it cannot be reduced anymore, so it's going to be 15 seconds regardless. It costs way more mana, so you don't really want to use it. It's a 2.5% mana, so if you're using it, you're going to deplete your mana very quickly. But again, it's an overall buff, I think, because it healing increases by 500% and no longer increases the healing on target below 35%. So basically, it's way more. It's again, you cannot be wrong pressing Power Life, because if someone is like below 35%, it will light up. If it's not, it will not light up. It will be not usable. So I think it's a good thing. It's easier to use as a priest, in my opinion, especially if you're a shadow priest. I think that's going to be a high value thing. But if you're like a disc priest or a holy priest, I think the mana cost can be very, very big. But you're still going to use it, I think. Discipline Priest, a lot of changes. Ultimate Penitence now is way more easier to use, because it's going to prioritize the target and will prioritize healing bolts if an ally is selected, or damaging bolts if an enemy is selected. In PvP, it's going like in the 3v3 or 2v2 scenario. I think Ultimate Penitence is very strong. I think in the RBG scenario or in the PvE scenario, I think Ultimate Penitence is not that good. It's a 4-minute CD, by the way. It's very long, so I don't know if it's going to be very strong, but it is an option. So if you're not playing that, we can always play that. Embrace Shadow is now removed, and Twilight Corruption remains in its location, and continues to increase Shadow Covenant's effectiveness by an additional 10%. So the duration now is just going to be slapped on the Shadow Covenant to match the duration of Mindbender. For example, Shadow Covenant, if you're using Mindbender, it will be a 12-second buff to yourself, which is a great thing. And you can play like a 1-minute Shadow Fiend, which is Mindbender, or you can play a 3-minute one with Shadow Fiend, but it will grant you way more damage and healing from your Shadow Fiend than with your Mindbender. For example, Mindbender is now only 10% increase, while Shadow Fiend is 25% increase. The visuals have been improved, so it's easier to see. Penance damage and healing is increased by 15%, which is big because they keep on increasing the damage and the healing from penance, so at one point it will be very strong. Mindbender and Void Summoner has swapped locations. Now you have Void Summoner, which was behind Mindbender, which was going to reduce the CD of Mindbender. Now you can also reduce the CD of Shadow Fiend if you want to play around Shadow Fiend, which is going to be maybe more interesting, by the way, because again 25% is quite big. Void Summoner reduces the cooldown of Shadow Fiend by 4 seconds, or Mindbender by 2 seconds. Was 2 seconds for both, but you couldn't really reduce Shadow Fiend's CD because you were replacing Shadow Fiend with Mindbender. So it is a way more logical spectre in my opinion right now. Fix an issue causing Mindbender to sometimes return to your side immediately upon being summoned, so that's not really a good thing. Expiation increases Mind Blast and Shadow Word Death damage by 15% to 30% instead of 10 to 20. So that's actually a very big thing, especially for Mind Blast and Shadow Word Death being like very hard hitters, so it's going to be a very good thing. Will and Woo increases Smite's damage by 20% per stack. I think it can stack to 7 times, which is going to make Smite's damage pretty noticeable right now. And Power Word Shield by 10% per stack. It was 5%, so it's going to be even more of a Power Word Shield buff. So I think Will and Woe is a good option if you want to play around penance and making your penances being a 7 stat, like a 7 bolt penance, so you can actually have a Will and Woe max potential with just only 1 penance. I think it's a great thing going on for Disc Priest. I think Disc Priest is going to be very meta going into 10.2 because they really want it to be meta, I think. Holy Priest, they got a few nerfs. I'm very sorry for you guys, but Prayer of Meaning healing decreased by 5%. Prismatic Echoes now increases the healing. That's a nerf also by 4% in total. Echo of Light healing decreased by 15%. I think that's a mastery, which is pretty big. But now it heals every 2 seconds in last 4 seconds instead of every 3 seconds and lasting 6 seconds. So it's going to be healing faster, but it also drops way faster. Divine Images Dazzling Light healing decreased by 35%. Divine Images Blessed Light healing decreased by 20%. Maybe you will change builds, it could be, but to be honest, this is like a lot of nerfs. They should maybe put a PvP modifier because you don't want to nerf that big in PvP. This will be more felt in PvP than PvE, I can guarantee you that. A Trail of Light replicates heal or flash heal for 13 to 25% instead of 35%, so that's also a big thing. Pontifex increases healing done by the Holy Words by 20%, stacking 2 times, was 10%, so that's a buff. At least at last you have only 1 buff. With Echo of Light healing way faster, I don't know if it's going to be a buff, but 15% decrease is quite big. There is a world where you're not playing Mastery, I think, but then you will be spamming more heals, so I don't know. I think Mastery is still going to be pretty big. There's a few changes here and there too for rogues. So there is Airborne Irritant has been moved to the class tree, so it was an outlaw thing and has been adjusted. So Blind has now a 50% reduced cooldown, 40% reduced duration, and applies to all enemies near the target. I personally think it is bad for PvP. If you want to take it. But I think having reduced CD is quite cool, but 40% reduced duration, what's the point? You're going to DR yourself pretty quickly, also your allies pretty quickly. Also applying to all enemies near the target, it's not always like beneficial to CC everyone at the same time. Like that. Mark for Death is removed, so that's unfortunate. I really like Mark for Death, but I think it was a problematic CD. It did too much for so little, so... Assassination Rogue got a huge buff on the 4-set. I always said that the 4-set was quite bad, but now I don't think it's not as bad, but I don't think it's going to be enough still for PvP, because it's also reduced by 2, divided by 2, so I don't think it's going to be quite good. But the damage has been increased by 230%, so if you're going to Envenom and then Envenom again, then you get like the explosion. It's going to be increased, but that's not like it's not going to be that drastic. Caustic Spatter damage increased to 35% instead of 30%, so that's going to be good for PvE, I think. Dashing Scoundrel, which is a 2-pointer, now is a 1-point in talent. They didn't precise anything about the percentages, so I think it's the same. Indiscriminate Carnage duration is now 10 seconds it was 3 seconds, so if you're like stealth and then you're not stealth anymore, I guess you have 10 seconds to expand that double Garrote, double Rapture, I think. Scent of Blood now increases agility by 2 to 4% per target ruptured, so that's a huge buff. To a max of 20% was 25%. So I guess you have a target limit, then only 5 targets. Well, for example, this one has 8 targets. Yeah, I think it's only 5 targets now, so it's limited to 5 targets instead of 8. I think it's better for PvP though. It's going to be way more valuable in PvP. Now, do you want to play a build with Scent of Blood in PvP? That's another question, but I'm thinking about PvP. I think it's 5 targets are way more easy to have than, like, let's say 8 or 6 targets, because if you have 6 targets, it's going to be less than the 5 targets. It's only going to be 18%. So overall, a buff for PvP, a nerf for PvE. Grand melee has been adjusted, now increases damage by 5% and blade fury deals 10% additional to nearby targets. Crackshot has been nerfed, so that's the build where you're getting a dispatch every time you're going to use your what's it called? Between the eyes, BT, excuse me. So it's going to be a 75% of normal damage instead of 100%. That's a huge nerf actually for that build. Dread Blades has been removed, but I think nobody really played any more Dread Blades with current build, I would say. Subtlety, Stiletto, Staccato, and Stunning Secret has been removed, so there is no AoE stance anymore. People were outcrying a bit too much, and now it's just gone. Gormal's bite cooldown reduced to 45 seconds, which is aligning with your Cold Blood, excuse me, wow, I forget every single name, with Cold Blood, so it's going to be more easy to use. You can put it on a macro and pretty much have Gormal every single time with Cold Blood, but they buff Secret Technique, so you have an option between Secret Technique or playing with Gormal's bite with Cold Blood, pretty much. I see a lot of people actually not playing Secret Technique anymore on the PTR. I don't know if it's a thing, but we'll have to see if it's going to be also good for PvP or if it's going to be skippable for PvP. Elemental Shaman, big redesign on the 4th set. When consuming Primordial Wave and for 10 seconds afterwards, Lava Burst burns your target for 25% additional damage over 4 seconds. It's going to be divided by 2 in PvP, so it's going to be still very much a lot of damage because you're spamming Lava Burst pretty much. And for 10 seconds, each cast of Chain Lightning causes your next Lava Burst to hit up to 3 additional targets affected by your Flame Shock for 100% of normal damage. That's weird. I don't know, because I feel like I'm always hitting like, I guess your Lava Burst without Primordial Wave, so it's going to be an extra Primordial Wave, but it's each cast of Chain Lightning, so I guess Stormkeepers could be nice. So you're putting a Stormkeeper, you're going to use a Primordial Wave, you're doing a Lava Burst, Chain Lightning, Lava Burst, Chain Lightning, Lava Burst, and you're going to have multiple Lava Bursts springing on everyone. I think it's going to be too strong, but it's divided by 2 in PvP. But I think the idea is you have a Primordial Wave, which you will get then a Lava Burst going to splatter on multiple targets. Then you have your Stormkeeper's Chain Lightning to put on everyone. Then you're going to have another Lava Burst with a Lava Surge or with your casted one, and you're going to cast on your main target. It's going to again go on the multiple targets like a Primordial Wave, but with a reduced normal damage in PvP, but in PvE it's going to be the same. And then you're going to do another Chain Lightning with Stormkeepers. Basically, you're going to forego the damage from your Lightning Bolts Stormkeepers, but you're going to add the Chain Lightning one, which is going to give you multiple Lava Bursts on multiple targets, which again will also proc maybe another Deeply Rooted Elements, which again will have multiple Lava Bursts on the targets, which effectively every time you're going to do a Lava Burst is going to reduce your CD of Primordial Wave with the talent. So again, you're going to be an instant damage machine. So I think in PvP it's going to be too obnoxious. We'll have to see, but I think it's going to be very strong, guys. I can already imagine what it's going to be. Restoration Shaman, they got a nerf on Ancestral Awakening. You were not playing that for PvP, but it's divided by it's not divided, but it's a 20% chance. 20% of healing done now is 30 instead of 30%. It prefers to heal injured players instead of always healing the lowest health player, so it's going to be not that good in PvP anymore. 2 set has been adjusted. Tidal Reservoir now heals 50% of all Riptide. Healing done was 20%, but it lasts way longer now. Again, divided by 2 in PvP, so I don't know if it's going to be very strong. Chances to create a new Riptide has been reduced to 5%. In PvP, it's 2.5%, so are you going to still play that? I don't know. You might play 2 set. To be honest, it's very annoying that they don't make a PvP tier set, because I feel like most PvE tier sets are like reduced to a point where you don't really want to play it anymore. We'll have to see. Affliction Warlock, their tier set is quite strong. So Soul Rod grants 3 Umbra Fire killing, which increases damage of your next Malefic Rupture by 50%, which is 25% in PvP. Additionally, Umbra Fire killing causes Malefic Rupture to extend the duration of your damage over time effects, but also your haunt by 2 seconds, which is 1 second in PvP. Noticeable or not, again, getting free damage on Malefic Rupture is always going to be nice. There's a huge kind of, is it a rework? It's a balancing thing on Demonology Warlock. So basically all Nether Portal damage, Demon's damage is increased by 30%. They really want you to play with Nether Portal, by the way. Here, when Nether Portal ends, you summon a Pit Lord that blasts your target for fire damage. Now it's not really a melee Pit Lord anymore, it's a casted Pit Lord, I think, every 1 second for 10 seconds. Demonic Tyrant's Demon Fire damage increased by 30%, so its baseline going to be stronger. Ring of Fury has been redesigned. Summon a Demonic Tyrant empowers 5 additional Wild Imps. So it was 15, but now it's like it was 10, but now it's 15 if I'm not mistaken, and deals 10% additional damage for each demon he empowers. So it's going to be stronger now than before, I think, but it depends about the bugs, if there are still going to be bugs. Fix an issue where your permanently summoned Felguard would not benefit from summoning Demonic Tyrant, so that's going to be a great bug fix. You have way more damage on Demon Bolt now, but there's still every single PTR node increasing the Demon Bolt damage by 30%, so at one point it will be doing good damage, I guess. Hand of Gul'dan increased by 25%, while Imps also increased by 25%, Implosion by 25%. Those are big numbers, by the way. I don't know if it's going to be OP, but if they are getting that much love, I'm actually afraid for PvP. Call Destruction, Dreadstalker's damage increased by 25%, Grimoire Felguard damage increased by 30%. Those are all big modifiers, guys. It's not like on the 5 or 10% buff. This is a 30% buff. It's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen. Immutable Hatred has been redesigned. Your Felguard Legion Strike deals 100% increased damage to its primary target. Your primary Felguard deals physical damage after auto attacking. So there is no they don't need to isolate anymore. So it's going to be 100% at all times. So I think that's way better for Demonology Warlock in general. The 2 set has been redesigned. Now applies Doom Brand, Demon Bolt that explodes after 20 seconds, dealing shadow damage to nearby enemies. Hand of Gul'dan reduces the duration of your active Doom Brands by 1 second per soul shard spent. So it's going to be accelerating the damage. Doom Brand damage increased by 35%. Chances for Doom Brand to summon a Doom Fiend has been increased. And Foresight has been redesigned. When Doom Brand explodes, you have a chance to summon a Doom Fiend that costs 5 Doom Bolts volleys before departing, and each Doom Bolt volley deals shadow damage to up to 4 nearby enemies. So it's going to be a good AoE option. I don't know if it's going to be good in PvP, we'll have to see, but I think with all those modifiers, they really want it to be strong. So we'll have to see what's going to happen with Demonology Warlock. Destruction Warlock, they got a buff on Rain of Fire, which is obvious because they got Madness of Ajikir now gone, so they had to also compensate the AoE part. This is a compensation buff that Chaos Bolt already had, but not Rain of Fire. They redesigned the 2 set, which I'm very, very pissed because I liked the increased damage on Immolate, but whatever. Bolts from a Dimensional Rift now deals 25% of damage dealt to nearby enemies, so it's going to be an AoE proportion. I really hate that. Immolate periodic damage has a chance to grant a charge of Dimensional Rift. It's a per minute chance, so it's going to be baseline the same if you're going to be single target or if you're going to be AoE targeting. The issue is immolating like the enemies are not going to be increased by 20% damage from immolate. Excuse me, I cannot even speak anymore. So the dot damage is going to be lower. The Dimensional Rift can now summon a powerful Flame Rift which blasts 20 searing bolts that deal fire damage and an additional fire damage over 10 seconds. I don't know how it's redesigned, except if the damage is higher or not. We'll have to see. Warriors, they got shafted on Rallying Cry. I'm very sorry about that. So now increases the current and maximum health by 10% instead of 15%. That's a huge nerf. Inspiring Presence is also removed, so the only reason why you would take Rallying Cry is because of the PvP talent. If you're not making the PvP talent, I think it's now useless to take Rallying Cry, in my opinion. I think it's better to use any other talent. Arms slam damage increased by 25%. At one point it will be useful, I guess, but improved slams critical damage is now reduced to 10%. So why would you do that? Why would you do that? You're making slam even worse than it. Whatever, man. I guess you really want us to use slam as a filler over filler instead of like actually a choice on the class tree, but whatever. I'm still not playing slam, by the way. Don't even test it. It's stupid. Set bonus has been slightly redesigned. Consuming bleeds now grants a damage taken reduction to the warrior instead of applying a damage take. So that's protection warrior, I guess. It's nothing really exciting. Thunderous roar cooldown reduction increased to 3 seconds. It's 1.5 seconds in PvP. That can be interesting, but pretty much the same. Let's see, PvP. You have a few changes here. All arena map pools now have an additional 2 maps. So you have Black Rook Hold and Ruins of Lordaeron and Paul Pool A, Hook Point and Robodrome on Pool B, and Tolveron Arenas and Dalaran Sewers on Pool C. It has been a while. I didn't play Pool C, by the way. I mean Dalaran Sewers. It has been a very long while, especially in social. I think in social it's not possible to play that, unfortunately. Barrier of Faith is now 100% more effective in PvP combat. Aura Mastery now increases the effectiveness of Devotion Aura to 24% in PvP combat. It was 30%, so it's a huge nerf, by the way. Priest. The backlash effects of Vampiric Touch, Stellar Flare, Unstable Affliction, Glimmer of Light, and Flame Shock will now land on Priest during phase shift. A huge nerf. A huge nerf. So before you could actually phase shift with the PvP talent. So you could actually just phase shift and then dispel. It will not give you any damage. Now it does. So good luck, guys. You're going to suffer a bit more versus affliction warlocks. The rest is not that important, to be honest. The damage is not as important as as unstable affliction. Fixed an issue that caused Hall of Terror Psychic Scream to not break from Shadow Warrior's death damage. That was a bit strong, I guess, but I didn't see. But that's it. Those are the changes. Overall, I think good changes. I think a lot of those PvE changes has to be counteracted with PvP modifiers, but we'll have to see if they're going to do that. I know the video is quite long, but I kind of give my opinion every single time I'm going to talk about a change. Hopefully you do appreciate it. Again, if you want to see the rework of Demon Hunter in a visual form, we have made a video previously, so you can click anywhere on the screen and you will see the Demon Hunter video right now. Thank you. Bye.